Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and thank you very much for joining me in this video. I've recently purchased a new Fujifilm camera, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about my thought process, the things I considered when I was buying the camera, talk a little bit about the camera itself, why I eventually decided upon this camera. And yeah, photography is important as well. The light's not great, but if I see anything, I'm going to try and get a nice photograph or two today as well. That would be a nice bonus. I'm not going to go into too many technical details about the camera or comparing it to other cameras. I think that's pretty pointless. There'll be lots of content about that already. So I really just want to concentrate on the things I considered and why I eventually purchased the camera that I did. But anyway, let's move on and see what I can find today. When it comes to making videos on my YouTube channel, I try not to make too many videos about photography equipment, cameras and lenses and so on. It's probably really good for views, but I think there's more important things in photography than the actual equipment you use. That said, equipment can be really important. So why am I making this video? Well, I've actually been using the camera that I'm going to talk about for, I think it's something like 4 months now. I've been using it for a long time. I've never shown it or featured it on a YouTube video. I have made a couple of tiny little clips, say on Instagram stories, just when I've been out and about, not showing the camera as such. And a few people have noticed and said, oh, is that a new camera? What is it? And I've also had quite a few people message me, because I'm a Fuji X series user, saying, am I going to be, or asking, am I going to be purchasing any of the new Fuji X series cameras? So that's basically why I'm making this video, and I think there's probably a few interesting bits that I can talk about. But when it comes to purchasing new camera equipment, specifically a camera or a lens, I think the most important thing is to get your photography skills to a level where you feel very confident in your ability as a photographer. And once you reach that point, you're going to know if you actually need a new camera or if you can benefit from a new camera. Of course, if you just fancy a change and you've got the money, why not? That's totally up to the person buying the equipment. But I think once you're at a certain level with your photography, you'll really know if a new camera can benefit you in any way or not. And that's generally how I decide about when I need to purchase a new camera. There's normally a reason behind it. So we'll move on and talk about this a little bit more. It's the light's not actually too bad at the moment for the type of scenery that I'm in. So as I'm making the video, I'm keeping my eyes peeled as well and see if I can get anything nice to photograph. So first off, to get this out of the way, why have I purchased a new Fujifilm camera? And there's a number of reasons for this. Some of them I guess you could definitely classify as I require a new camera, and there's some other reasons simply that I want a new camera. But I think in terms of the want a new camera, even there's a lot of things that I am going to personally benefit from. But it was primarily driven by requiring a new camera. So for the last 4.5 to 5 years, I've owned and used a Fujifilm X series camera, a specific model. I've had 2 different models of X series camera, owned them at different times. And I love those cameras. I love the Fuji X series cameras and the lenses. I've got a number of XF lenses, and I think they're fantastic cameras. So why do I want another camera? Well, the key thing is that this is another camera. It's not replacing. I currently have a Fuji X-T3 and I'm going to be keeping that camera, but I'm actually adding another Fujifilm camera to my gear. The reasons for this, the first one is that at times for some of the work I do for shooting videos and so on, it's going to be a benefit for me to have 2 cameras with me on location at the same time. So I obviously need 2 cameras for that purpose. I won't have 2 cameras with me at all times, but a lot of the time I will. So it's going to be really handy for that. The second reason is that where I'm at with my photography at the moment, I think it's almost essential for me to have a backup camera. So if anything did go wrong and I've only got one camera, it's really going to put me in a difficult position if I'm not able to take photographs. Also, if I go away somewhere for say a week and you know, if disaster strikes and your camera fails, I will have two cameras. So I really need one for these reasons. I think it's very sensible for those reasons. And there's a number of other reasons which are maybe not as essential as those, but I think nowadays resolution of monitors and so on is increasing. And I have a great love for photography, but I also love being outdoors, and I love the places that I visit when I'm taking photographs. And I spend an awful lot of time sat in front of a computer. If I'm not out doing photography, I'm doing photography related work on my computer, editing photos, videos, and so on. And I like to look back at my photographs as well, and they bring back wonderful memories for me. So there's a part of me wants to have my photographs in the best quality that I can, just to preserve those memories, have the photographs looking as good as I can. And also, as I say, I think monitor resolution and so on is increasing. So I think having a new camera to take photographs, you know, a bit better than my current camera can, will definitely be something that will benefit me and just make my workflow and my time spent at the computer a little bit better. So I'll maybe touch on that a little bit more later in the video, but those are the sort of reasons that I began to consider getting another camera. As someone who's owned a Fuji X series camera for quite a number of years, as I mentioned earlier, I've had an awful lot to think about in the last few months. I don't know, probably over 6 months, maybe even a bit longer than that, due to the release of all the new fantastic Fuji X series cameras. I've been really keen on all of those cameras, and there were 3 of them for different reasons. First release, I think, was the Fuji X-H2S. There was a lot about that camera appealed to me for doing video. It was a very capable video camera. The screen, perhaps not quite so good for photography, but I believe it flipped round, so I would find that very useful for shooting video. It would have better autofocus than my XT3, so a bit of an advantage for landscape photography, but a big advantage for my wildlife photography. I spend the vast majority of my time doing landscapes, but I also love wildlife photography. I do spend quite a lot of time doing that. So a lot there to tempt me. Then came the X-H2, I think was next. It had has a 40 megapixel sensor. So quite an upgrade potentially, depending on a number of other factors which I won't get into in this video, but potentially a boost in image quality over my XT3. Again, maybe not as good as X-H2S, but improved autofocus, so I would find that useful. Again, a very capable video camera, and the flip round screen as well. Then, having owned a XT3 and an XT4, came the XT5. Those fantastic dials at the top that a lot of us know and love. I'm very fond of those as well. It had the tilt up screen, which tilts at a number of angles, very useful for photography. Again, can take good video as well, a very capable video camera. Doesn't have the flip round screen for that, but potentially not the end of the world. And again, 40 megapixels, so an upgrade on my current XT3, the 26 megapixel sensor on that one. So really tough decisions. I would really be tempted with any of those cameras, and in the end, which of those did I buy? Well, actually none of them. So what camera did I actually end up purchasing? Well, my main reason for buying this camera, other than having a spare camera, my priority is photography, and going even further than that, my main priority is landscape photography. And for a long time I've had my eye on the Fuji GFX lineup of cameras. They're Fujifilm's medium format cameras, and clearly if your sole purpose is to do landscape photography, then I would argue that in the Fuji lineup they are going to give you the best results. As I said at the beginning of this video, I don't want this to be an incredibly technical video. I'm not going to compare medium format to APS-C or medium format to full frame. There's lots of discussion about that on the internet, so I'm not going to get into that in this video. But I did a lot of research. I am in a fortunate position that I was able to try and compare cameras. I was able to try the GFX that I ended up buying. And for me, I'm very confident that I personally, for what I had in mind, I've made the right decision. Would it be the right decision for other people? Perhaps, perhaps not. It depends on their requirements. I ended up going for the GFX 50S2. As I said, my main purpose is landscape photography. I'm not interested in how good the camera is at recording video, for example. It does record video, but I think the GFX 100S or other GFX 100 models would record better video. I think they can do 4K, but that's not relevant to me, nor did I need the increase in megapixels that those models offer. For me, the 50 GFX S2 that I bought will do everything that I require. To sum up why I bought it, this makes perfect sense to me. It may not make perfect sense to everyone watching, but for me, I very much know the types of landscapes that I like to shoot. I have a very clear idea in my head, my approach to editing once I've taken the photographs, regarding how I like my images to end up looking, how much or how little editing I like to do. And I've got some projects, long-term projects in mind, and I've very much got a clear idea of where I would like to go with my landscape photography. And for all these reasons put together, and some other reasons, and obviously the dynamic range and other things offered by this camera, the level of detail, as I said earlier, it's going to be nice to look at when I'm editing. I spend a long time in front of computers. It's obviously going to let me make large prints. Again, someone could say, oh, you could use software to enlarge your photographs to make huge prints. That's certainly an option, but we all do and buy what we want, and this is my preferred option. So for all of these things put together, I was very confident that this was the right camera for me. And as I say, I've owned it for quite a while now, and there's nothing about it that has made me think otherwise. I'm really happy with my purchase. So that's what I've bought, and that's sort of the decision-making path I went along, why I needed a camera, all the things that I considered. As I said, I've still got my X-T3, and I'll be using that camera a lot. I'll be using it for wildlife photography. I'll be still shooting some landscapes with it at times, and it's going to be used for times at video as well. So it is still an excellent camera. Looking long term, ideally, yes, I would like to upgrade that to one of the other X series models for the improved autofocus, maybe improved video capabilities, better for wildlife, yes. But for the moment, my X-T3 has served me very well, and it's still going to serve me very well for some considerable time. But I have other requirements as well, and that's why I bought the GFX 50S2. After talking about my camera, it was finally time to use it. I concentrated on my photography, set up a composition, and I had the fortune for the sun to very briefly break through the clouds. Here is the photograph that I captured on my Fuji GFX 50S2. So that's going to be it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed hearing my thought process behind making the purchase of a new camera, and I've tried to cover just a simple summary of all the reasons that went into my purchase. My advice to anyone who's thinking about buying a new camera, I touched on a little bit of this earlier in the video, it's just to get your photography skills to where you feel you're really competent, and then you're going to know if a new camera is going to benefit you in any way. It's not always about image quality. It can be about simply the menu system in a camera, how easy you find it to operate, its ergonomics. And sometimes you don't need a new camera body, sometimes a new lens will make a huge difference to your photography. But once you're competent, you're going to know if you need to purchase something, or indeed if you want to purchase something. And the other thing I would advise is that although there's some fantastic information out there on the internet, and most of it will be well intended, there is some bad advice as well, and you will find lots of contradictory opinions on lenses and cameras. You'll find some folks saying they're fantastic, some folks saying their old camera was better after they've bought a new one. Some people will buy a better lens and say they see no difference. You can get misled, so if at all possible, try things out for yourself. That would be my own advice to anyone considering making a new purchase. But for now, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully you will tune in to my next video.